Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Enfluence 2022. My name is Sana Sateh, and I'm an incoming sophomore at Drexel University.
Hello, I am Arnav Rastogi, and I'm an incoming freshman at Boston College. Thank you all for coming today. This is a wonderful event where you're going to be hearing speeches from your children and some of your closest friends, and they're about to be phenomenal.
Today, we have 16 amazing speakers as part of the Enfluence 2022 graduation. These speakers have been working extremely hard on not only their public speaking skills, but also their leadership skills.
Today we have with us the Honorable Mayor Marathe. Mayor Marathe has been the mayor of West Windsor and has been serving our district for over 20 years now. His experience includes being a West Windsor and Plainsboro School Board member and president, as well as a town councilman. In honor of Father's Day being tomorrow, last year, Mr. Marathe was honored at the Father Center's Platinum Dad event. This event recognizes fathers who've served the community with leadership, integrity, and steadfastness. Mayor Marathe's dedication to our town's values of sustainable development, green initiatives, and protecting the livelihoods of each of our citizens is the reason we are honored to have him here. Mr. Marathe, we'd like to invite you on stage to share a few words.
Can you get me? Hi. Thanks for your kind invitation to speak today. I attend these events, and after hearing some of these kids, at the end of it, I feel like why did they invite me today? Any of these kids do much better job than I do. So I'm sure even today, these 16 kids will do an amazing job and speaking for their cause. It's always important and gratifying to see the youth doing something for others, for some picking up some cause and helping people who are less fortunate than us or who are more needy than us. And it's very important to have good public speech, good way of convincing others. And as you go and practice that craft, you will keep learning more and more. I always say when you were little, when you were 3-5-year-old, when you wanted that ice cream or candy, you know which parent was easier to attack. And you also knew how to attack the parent. That was like early start of your public speaking skills. Public speaking doesn't mean speaking to a gathering of 500,000. It's even one-to-one communication with your co-workers is equally important. Just trying to get your point across. And always when you speak to other people, always remember that they may not carry the same feelings about the cause that you carry. So, a few years ago, somebody told me, now nobody listens to radio stations anymore. I don't know if any one of you have listened to radio stations, but someone told me when you're approaching someone, always think about WFI, IM, AM radio station. What is in it for me? So always when you approach somebody, just talk to them about, okay, how would you convince them what's in it for them? Why should they be interested in the cause that you are interested in? Because there are always more causes than an individual or even we as a society can worry. There are way too many causes and too many people who need help in various aspects. So it's your job to convince the listener why your cause they should worry about and why they should try to convince you. So I'm eager. I told her I always like to listen to students more than you listening to me. So I'm eager to listen to all your speeches. And unfortunately, I have another appointment at 4 o'clock, so I'll stay as long as you can. But again, thank you for inviting me, and best wishes for you today and all in your future. So thanks.
Our first speaker today will be Anthra Shankwalker. She's an incoming junior at WWP High School North who loves to debate, dance, and volunteer. She has hopes to pursue a career in medicine or dentistry.
Holly Grace, a young girl, holds a tough story. During her first 4 years, she was a selective mute, only communicating with a select few and using sign language, even though she wore hearing aids. Holly Grace never took part in assemblies, church services, Christmas carols, or any form of activity as she was too scared to join in. This went on for many years. In primary school, she experienced severe bullying, which led her on a continuous move throughout schools. Now you might be wondering, what caused this girl to be so terrified of the world? Holly Grace was born with a cleft lip and cleft palate. A cleft lip or cleft palate are two birth conditions that can occur separately or together. The condition will either cause a slit on one side of the lip or both sides. If both, may be of the same or different severity. In more detail, a cleft lip can range from a small single notch at the top of the upper lip to a double slit extending all the way up to the nose and involving the gums and teeth. A cleft palate may be as mild as a small opening in the roof at the back of the mouth, near the uvula, or it may extend all the way to the front of the mouth. Cleft is caused when facial structures being developed in an unborn baby don't close completely. The condition mostly occurs as an isolated birth defect, but is also associated with many inherited genetic conditions and syndromes. Although you might not think this condition is as big a deal as others, every 3 minutes, a baby is born with a cleft, meaning a baby is born with an incomplete smile and is entering a life filled with bullies. Cleft is also among the most common birth defects, occurring in 1 of every 600 births. Joaquin Phoenix, an Oscar-winning actor who played the Joker in the recent 2019 film, has a cleft lip. Peyton Manning, one of the greatest football quarterbacks who played for the Colts and Broncos, has a cleft palate. Manning's struggled with feeding and bullying and had to endure several surgeries and visits to the dentist throughout his childhood. Yet, no one in the audience knew this about him until today. Luckily, these celebrities had the money to pay for surgeries growing up. But many kids in Africa, Brazil, and India don't have the financial support to fulfill these operations. And there is a great danger that comes with this. If a cleft lip or cleft palate is left untreated, a child can face severe effects. This includes problems with feeding, throat development, ear infections that can lead to permanent hearing loss, and most importantly, speech development, which can create difficulty with breathing and cause the patient to sound nasally. Which is why it is important to correct cleft early in a child's life, around 6 to 18 months of age. And it is extremely important for women to be educated on what they can do to prevent their future baby from obtaining a cleft. Not only does this condition create physical problems, but it creates mental problems as well. With cleft, your entire day-to-day basis is changed. People stare at you at school. You're prevented from doing a countless number of jobs. And overall, you can't just drop the tension from your shoulders because you could stop breathing at any second. Parents, how would you feel if this was your child? Fear. And although cleft only has a 3.6% rate of death, death is still there. Therefore, parents of those who have cleft have this fear 10 times worse. And this is why they need our help to provide their children with happiness. So cleft is worth acting upon because you could give a patient their smile. You could take away the evil that is holding many kids back, and you can take the weight away from thousands of parents' shoulders. By providing financial support, we can give patients with cleft a life-changing surgery that is simple and quick, allowing doctors to almost guarantee survival with a 0.01% mortality rate. The nonprofit organization and charity Smile Train will give you this chance. Smile Train gives patients with cleft lip and cleft palate the experience to have a safe reconstructive surgery. This surgery is performed by local medical expertise that Smile Train also supports to provide the necessary equipment and training the doctors need in order to complete the surgery. How can you help? There are many ways. This applies to everyone, whether you live near the Smile Train headquarters in New York or across the world. To help those in need, you can send cards, donate money, and volunteer in fun events and informational meetings that take place in person and online. However, these actions need to take place now. July marks Cleft Awareness Month, but this upcoming month will be unlike any other. Through my experience with Smile Train, I've noticed that the children we support are facing unimaginable challenges due to the pandemic. Hospitals all over the world are still postponing surgeries. This has resulted in over 49,000 children waiting for their cleft surgeries. Research has shown that 90% of these children will die before the age of 19 without treatment. With treatment, 98% of these children will live. So your support is nothing short of life-saving. Along with your help, not only will lives be saved, but stories will be made. As I mentioned before, Holly Grace is a young teenage girl who holds a tough story. But she also holds a beautiful one. After surgery, she found her voice and recently took part in one of her previous fears, a Christmas concert. She also found a passion for running and was chosen to represent her primary school on several occasions, recently placing second in a cross-country race. Her parents had even said that after the help of Smile Train, she almost instantly began to grow, blossom, and flourish. My personal experience with Smile Train has been amazing, and yours will be too. You can donate $50 today, and I guarantee you it will transform a life. With the help you provide, tears of joy will be cried, lives and communities will be changed, and more heartwarming smiles as Holly Grace will be made.
We will now take any questions Mayor Marathe has.
So how much does it cost for one surgery?
I'm not sure about that, but I guarantee you that if you all help out, it will be way better for these children.
Do the audience members have any questions? No? Okay, we'll go on with the next person.
Amazing speech, Anthro. Thank you for discussing Cleft, which is a topic that many people don't know about. Coming up next is Sahana Pillai, soon to be sophomore at J.P. Stevens High School, with a passion for debate, robotics, and business. She hopes to change the world, starting with infrastructure in Ghana.
Every day you get to go to school. Every day you have a table and a chair to eat lunch on. And every day you have a roof over your head. But this isn't the case for people everywhere, and especially for not the children in Ghana. We've seen the news, we've heard the cries and the pleas for help, but all we do is watch and ignore them, as if these don't impact us. We act as this is a figment of our imagination, something that doesn't directly impact us, as if this isn't even real. But this is real. These are our mothers, our fathers, our daughters and sons. These are real cries and real pleas, but we continue to ignore them, and that is where we're wrong. We always talk about how education is so important and how knowledge runs the world. But how can people be expected to gain such knowledge and gain such education if they don't have the means to do so? Take this situation. On a day-to-day basis, we all use calculators. It's been such integrated that we don't even realize how much we should appreciate them. Whether it's on an algebra test, figuring out how much money you owe a friend, or even figuring out taxes, we always use calculators. Now take them away. Where are we? Where we are is in FNF, debt, and claims and tax evasion. And that's just one piece of integral educational infrastructure that we have in our daily lives. Now take away the rest. Take away the pencils, the books, that phone in your pocket, even the smartboard that you use at work or in office. Take all of those away, and where are you now? Where you are is in the exact same footing as the children in Ghana. No advantage, no one step ahead of the rest, same footing. But that's not all. Studies have shown that absences in Ghana are bound to increase because of the negative environment created by a lack of infrastructure in place. In fact, in the Saboba district of Ghana, 500 students sit on the floor because they don't have the desks and the chairs that you and I do. 500 students don't have the same resources and need to make ends meet. But that's not all. We've all heard about high school dropouts, about college dropouts, but elementary school? These are our children. These are our futures. Yet 16.3% of primary students in Ghana are dropouts. And the only reason for this is because they don't feel safe in school. They don't want to go to school knowing that there is not a safe environment for them to learn and be educated. But it doesn't stop there. The situation is dire even for students that go to school. In the Bauchi district of Ghana, many teachers have stated that the education and development of children in Ghana varies vastly than the education and development of children in America. But the only difference between these two situations is how much infrastructure that's in place. Imagine that feeling of hopelessness. Know that no matter what you do, you cannot change your very own situation. You will never be able to have the same resources as the kid next to you, the same infrastructure as the kid next to you, and the same education. And it's not your fault, because from your very own birth, you were put at a disadvantage, at a step behind the rest of the crowd, the rest of the competition. That feeling of helplessness is the exact feeling that children in Ghana need to face every single day. But it doesn't stop there, it keeps going. Even outside of school, in extracurriculars, the lack of infrastructure is still impacting these children. Everyone here had extracurriculars or clubs to figure out what they wanted to do in college at such an early age so that they could specialize in this industry. Whether it's a club to be in a debate team or an athlete or even become a chemist, we always had some sort of resource that can help us specialize in this field at such an early age. But the children in Ghana don't have these types of things. In fact, many accounts of people using tree sticks instead of hockey sticks is of such a common occurrence in Ghana that people don't bat an eye when they see it. Athletes run barefooted, chemists don't have goggles, doctors don't have labs, coders don't have computers, and mathematicians don't have calculators. How can we be expected to take the next step forward if we don't have the means to do so? We always talk about how the world is getting more and more integrated by the second. As we keep going in the modern world, everyone starts to have an impact on another person's lives, even if you have never met them before. You and I can make a change on someone across the globe's life. As parents, each and every single one of you has made an unspoken promise that no matter what, you will make sure that your child will be able to become the best that they can be and achieve the most that they possibly can. This promise is universal, but the parents in Ghana can't fulfill this promise because they don't have the same resources as you and I. They don't have the same resources to give their child good education and good opportunities. But you can be a part of the team that fulfills that promise. You might be wondering, why has this problem not already been solved? 7% of Ghana's GDP has been poured into infrastructure. We've seen organizations in the past always talk about education in countries like Africa and others. So why hasn't this problem already been solved? It all comes down to one issue: the people that back up the organization itself. Because an organization is nothing without the people that follow it. And that's where Run for Opportunity strives to differ from the rest of the crowd. Run for Opportunity creates family-friendly environments where people actually want to go to the events that they create. During COVID-19, we were all really tired. We couldn't make a positive impact on our environment, let alone on ourselves. But Run for Opportunity didn't see this as a disadvantage or a barrier. They used it to their advantage to promote such an important cause when all anyone could think of was COVID-19. With their online 5K Houses to Homes, Run for Opportunity created such a friendly environment that hundreds of people go online and raise money to create houses in Ghana. But they didn't stop there. Even after the heat of COVID-19 came to a downfall, Run for Opportunity continued to maintain their message and to maintain their cause because they knew that it was important. Imagine a nice sunny day. You're outside with your family, your friends, even your pet. There's a raffle ticket at the end. You could even win a prize. Doesn't that sound like a fun event that you would actually want to go to? Now imagine that as you're doing this, you're saving lives. Every step that you take is saving another kid's life, giving another kid education, and giving another child the opportunities so that they can be on the same footing as you and I. That is the type of environment that Run for Opportunity creates. And that is how Run for Opportunity is actually effective in its way of raising money and giving it to the children in Ghana. Even if it's not for the children in Ghana, do it for yourself. Do it because you know that whatever you're doing, that next little bit of effort, that couple dollars, is saving lives, and you are literally a hero. Won't that help you sleep better at night? Knowing that what you do was more than for yourself. It was for the greater good. It was for the children in Ghana so that they could succeed, just as you and I. Run for Opportunity gave me the opportunity to give the children in Ghana the opportunities to take that next step forward. What opportunity can you help create?
Wonderful speech, Sahana. You held such great passion in your speech. Mayor Marathe, do you have any questions?
You can ask questions. Others can ask questions too. And how is Ghana different than so many other countries who face exactly the same issues?
While Ghana might not be a unique area compared to other places, it's still something that is often overlooked. We always talk about the general of Africa or general of countries, but Ghana is one country that if we can pour a lot of our efforts into that one place, that can provide an inspiration to countries everywhere, so that these same efforts can be replicated through other organizations and through other sets of people.
Okay, do the audience members have any questions? Don't be scared, they're prepared for this.
She's giving $10 per question.
All right, then we could go, oh, yes, we have a question.
It's not about $10. Ghana is very rich with the natural resources. Why can't the government Ghana and utilize that for like tourism or anything like that and turn the funds towards education?
So, as I said before, 7.5% of Ghana's GDP is already being put into infrastructure, and infrastructure isn't the only part of Ghana that the government needs to handle, but it's still an important issue that we can solve as people. So, every single one of our efforts can be made to solve this issue. So, regardless of whatever the government in Ghana is doing, I truly believe that each and every single one of us can help solve this issue in Ghana and in other places around the globe.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, then we could go with our next speaker. Great job, Sahana. Okay, next up is Vivan Shah, an incoming sophomore at South Brunswick High School, who is passionate about robotics. As a nature lover, he is here to speak about the impact of global warming.
You smell that beautiful, salty aroma all around you. The calm waves are splashing, gently kissing the boulders that you're surrounded by. Your feet are submerged in that hot, grainy sand. You're talking, laughing, and having some of your best times with your friends and your family. This is a moment that many of us can share, a moment at the beach. But the sad reality is that at the current path that our Earth is headed towards, these moments will never come again. And it's due to one thing, global warming. And global warming is due to one thing. That's me, you, and everybody in this room. Humans take away the Earth's natural resources. We pollute the Earth and contribute to this humongous problem. Global warming has gotten out of hand, and it concerns me that nobody knows the magnitude of this issue. People throw it into conversations so easily. People think it's a problem we have to worry about after centuries. People think that if the temperature increases by a little bit, that's okay. But we are facing the worst times of global warming. As a matter of fact, it was proved by the Center of Biological Diversity that by 2050, 1/3 of all animals and plants are going to go extinct. Now that's insane. That means every single picture or video you've seen of this wildlife is going to all be gone without you even getting a proper chance to say goodbye. And not only that, our ocean's memory is dying. Sure, this may seem like an abstract term to some of us, but to scientists, it is so important because they use that to predict the weather and, more importantly, natural disasters before they even strike us. If scientists can't predict the weather anymore through the ocean's memory, you could just be living your everyday life when all of a sudden a hurricane just strikes you. Your friends, your family, your neighbors, they could all be dead because you weren't warned in advance. We take this for granted, but once we keep contributing to global warming, you'll never know when a natural disaster is about to even hit you. And we're not only having natural problems with global warming, but the human race is getting worse. By 2099, every single person will have lost 50 hours of sleep. In the grand scheme of things, that means every employee, CEO, every parent will be sleep deprived and can't efficiently work. Life will get worse as the quality of products will go down. We won't be able to raise kids properly. And to make matters worse, it's been proved that global warming is going to increase the amount of violent crimes by 2 to 3 million. In a country where we're already facing so many issues with gun control, global warming has been proved to make this even worse. And if we don't stop now, if you don't stop buying those plastic bottles and stop opting for the cheaper option, it can be the factor between a family living and dying. This problem is getting out of hand. Unimaginable consequences are unfolding beneath our eyes. Let me take you to Greenville, California, for instance. Ken Donald, a peaceful luthier, is living his normal life when he opens his curtains on a hot, sunny day and sees trees ablaze. He doesn't know what to do. He's frantic, he's panicking. He gathers a few objects, hops in his car, and merely escapes with his life. This type of story seems straight out of our nightmares, but it was caused by the Dixie Fire in 2021, one of the worst times of the year caused by global warming. If we don't fix global warming today, you could be in his shoes. You could be trying to escape with just your life, having to ditch everything you've earned and worked for. So how do we fix this? How do we stop global warming from destroying our planet? The answer is the Green Cause, a nonprofit made to educate people about the problems we're facing, how they occur, and how we can stop them. We deliver effectful presentations to many, teaching them about simple alternatives. Some people can carpool, take public transport. When you're ready to move on to a new car, buy electric vehicles, there's so many solutions. And the most important one are solar panels. It's just a one-time investment where you can save so much money and, even more importantly, get greener and cleaner energy. We even contribute to this problem without thinking about it. I'm sure many of your children have been to sports games on the weekends and they buy big packets of plastic water bottles. But why should we be contributing to that huge landfill when we can just refill? And not only are we causing this, but the government needs to step in. The government has helped a bit. They've certified products to make them energy efficient. But once we start causing and pushing for change, we need to get national laws in. Laws that can finally help eliminate global warming. So together, we need to step up and fight this monster, a problem like none other, worse than any war or natural disaster, because every single human on every single part of the earth is dealing with it. Together, we've suffered, we've learned, and we've evolved. It's up to each and every one of you in this room who's ready to make a change.
Great job, Yvonne. Global warming is such a prevalent issue that impacts each and every one of us today. So it needs to be talked about more. Mayor Marathe, any questions?
Yeah, so there's usually a 80-20 or 90-10 kind of thing where 10% of things cause 90% of the problem. So what 3 things you would advise everybody in this room to do that are most effective in fighting the problem you are worried about?
So my advice would be is that the number one thing you want to do is just recycle. We're using so many things that can pollute the earth. It's just plastic. Then so many companies can be using more green materials, stuff that can help save our planet. And we're on the right track, but stores have already started banning plastic bags and products like these. But once it gets to a bigger scale, that's when we can really stop global warming.
Audience, any questions? Okay, so we're going to move on to our next speaker. More and more women die each day, ignored by this crisis. Next up, Sanvi Virapanini will be discussing period poverty, a forgotten health crisis.
Don't talk about it. It's shameful. Why are you talking about such an unclean topic? This has nothing to do with you. This isn't the time or place to talk about this. Be quiet. These are phrases that not just me, but so many women around the world have heard almost every day. Women still, after so many years of fighting for their rights, still suffer under the patriarchy today. Now, this may come as a surprise to so many people. You know, women have gotten so many more opportunities in these past years, so many more rights, so many more laws to make us all equal. But yet, women still suffer. Think about a little middle school-aged girl being afraid, having gotten her first period, not knowing what to do, without the education, supplies, resources that she needs to keep herself hygienic. Think about the fear that she must be experiencing. Think about the loneliness. Now think about this little girl as your daughter, your cousin, your niece, your family. This little girl could be anyone. And so many girls just like this one are around the world today, suffering and being terrified, not knowing what's happening to them or how to stop it. Period poverty is not a word that we hear every day. Period poverty is the lack of supplies, education, and resources regarding periods. This is a public health crisis that has been ignored for decades, not being spoken about, being shoved under the rug and ignored. Now you may think, period poverty, this is a problem that happens in some third world country, somewhere far away. This has nothing to do with me. But something that many people don't realize is that period poverty is everywhere. In the US today, some prisons where people can only make maybe up to $2 per hour in some places, and lowest 14 cents per hour. Only 12 states out of the 50 allow free menstrual products in prisons. 12 states. And these women are still being forced to pay for these necessary products with such low of a salary. Having period products is not a luxury. It is not a privilege to have, but it is a necessity. And these women are still being forced to pay and work every day just to get the basic products that they need to stay hygienic. Not only in prisons, but in our education system today. Especially in schools. Just now have they started teaching women and men about periods. Teaching both sexes. Teaching everyone about this process that happens to 50% of our population. Over the years, I have seen grown men ask me simple questions about periods when this should be common knowledge, as this happens to our sisters, our mothers, our daughters. This happens to everyone, and yet 50% of our population is left out, not having the education that they need to help the others. This isn't just a small problem that affects our country, but this is a problem that is global. Places like India, Pakistan, or Barbados, where you expect there to be some level of modernization, where people have paved roads, education, food, other resources, period poverty is still rampant. Especially in India, where some women aren't even allowed to leave their house if they're on their period. Not allowed to go to temples. Not allowed to eat certain foods. Not allowed to touch others. With so much stigma around periods, some women are too scared to even speak about the problems that they could be facing. Periods are not something that should be ignored. It is a natural process that happens to many of us. But still, people refuse to talk about it. Why? Because of the ostracization, the stereotypes surrounding it, and the so-called uncleanliness when someone talks about it. Especially in Barbados, where women almost have no period products to help them in certain places. To help solve this problem, I joined a nonprofit called Pure Youth. In Pure, we raise a significant amount of money to help send people to Barbados, to help send workshops and products to Barbados to help educate the women and men there, to help keep these young women healthy. And when we sent people there, the results we got were astonishing. So many young women didn't know these simple facts or products that could help keep them healthy, help keep their daughters healthy. And so many young men learned so many new things about periods and help teach others about these new facts and new ways to keep the women around us healthy and safe. Period poverty is not a small problem. With women's health already being so neglected in our world today, with gender bias being so prevalent, with women's health being ignored. In some areas in the world, women aren't even allowed to get access to their own bodies, access to the education to learn about themselves, the ability to learn about themselves and teach their daughters about it too, the opportunity to keep healthy. And period poverty just adds to this problem. Period poverty is not just a small issue that affects one area, one person, one life, one family, but period poverty can affect everyone. In corporate America already makes it so hard for women to get period products, especially in low-income situations, where women have to work so hard just to get the basic products that they need to stay healthy. And in India, where women aren't even allowed to talk about periods since it's seen as disgusting and unclean. And in Barbados, where young women are dying almost every day due to toxic shock syndrome or yeast infections that they may get without the supplies that they need. This problem is affecting all of us. This is affecting the world around us. Helping spread education, donating to causes, helping lower the stigma around periods won't just save one life, but helping educate others can save millions.
Great job, Sandy. Not many people know about period poverty, so I'm so glad that this topic was discussed. Any questions, ma'am?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I heard the term period poverty. I've never heard of it. Barbados is relatively a small country. How much would it cost if you want to just solve the problem manually?
See, I'm not sure about specific costs or rates, but I'm sure if we keep trying to save one small community, keep trying to educate these small percentage of women, this act of helping one community will spread to others. You know, lowering the stigma in one community will do a lot for other communities who are also struggling with the same problem.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, next speaker.
Okay, I have a question. So I know you are trying your awareness through your program. Like, so are you concentrating to any specific country, Barbados, or all over the world?
So our goal is, first last summer we did do a project in Barbados, but our entire project is to help women around the world as well.
And what are the various ways you are trying to spread your awareness?
So what we did is that we sent workshops and educators to Barbados to help educate people there. We also send products and different pamphlets or other resources that these women can use to help educate themselves and their family.
Okay, thank you so much, Sandy. Now everyone, brace yourself. Next up, we have an incoming senior at Westminster High School South named Amartya Dharma with his speech, A Plague. But don't worry, he isn't actually sick.
Hello? Must be Angela. Let's meet Angela. Angela is a single, independent woman who lives by herself, and she has just received the best news of her life. She is pregnant. She knows what this entails. She knows that the next 9 months will be gruesome and filled with burdens, but she perseveres nevertheless, because she knows that ultimately there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. She will be compensated with one of the most beautiful things life has to offer, a baby. She spends the next 3 months of her pregnancy taking care of herself with utmost caution. She follows all dietary precautions, exercises regularly, and stays away from drugs and alcohol, because she wants her baby to come out strong and healthy. Another 4.5 months pass, and she finds herself being wheeled down on a gurney. Alarms are flaring and lights are flashing in her eyes. She realizes she is about to give birth. She's faced with a full array of emotions. She doesn't know what particularly to focus on. She doesn't know whether to feel sad, angry, anxious, or scared. But out of all of these emotions, there's one thing that she's certain of. She is scared for her economic standpoint. She did give birth 1.5 months prior than expected, so she hasn't had ample time nor resources to prepare herself for such an upturn in her life. Out of all of these rational and legitimate feelings that she is feeling on her hospital bed, the one that sticks with her most and the one that lingers with her is the one with the simplest solve, the one that can be fixed with a simple click of the button, or the rallying support of 3 individuals. Yet that is what sticks with her most and turns what was supposed to be one of the best and most beautiful days of her life into one of the worst. Now, let's look at me. I am a 16-year-old about to celebrate my 17th birthday in a mere 2 weeks. When I do, I hope to be passing my road test, being surrounded by friends, family, soda, and cake. I fully intend to make it one of the most memorable and cherishable days of my life. As I'm sure everyone in this room does, we all aim to make our birthdays those days that we can look back on with joy, something that we look back on when we want to remember something special and good. But at the same time we're doing this, families are mourning. They're mourning because their children have never even been given the opportunity to reach the age of 1. Before they can form coherent opinions, they're stripped from this world. Before they can form a sense of morality, they were stripped from this world. Infant mortality is a plague. It is something with the potential to affect the rich, the poor, and the middle class without discrimination. It can creep into every little crack, every little crevice of every single household all around the world and tear it apart from the inside, because that is what plagues do. Why should something so terrible happen in our day-to-day lives? Why should families have to tremble in fear over the health and safety of their children? I know there's many mothers around the room, mothers that were willing to do anything to take care of their children, ensure that they're happy and healthy, and enjoy their birthdays year after year. There's mothers that aim to make their children anticipate and be excited for their birthdays every single year. Yet at the same time, mothers are putting their best foot forward towards ensuring this. Mothers around the world are taking their feet forward at their children's cemeteries because they were never given the opportunity to talk to their children or to communicate with them, or to even share those special birthday moments with them, moments in general. I know at the moment, infant mortality, the tunnel that is infant mortality, seems infinitely dark and inescapable, but that doesn't have to be the case. March of Dimes is a nonprofit organization founded by the US former President Franklin D. Roosevelt. And its primary goal is to protect the health and safety of moms and babies around the world, as it has been doing so through events and institutions. I myself have had the pleasure of volunteering for March for Babies, and during my experience, I have visited events, most particularly the March for Babies Walk, in which I've seen 3 distinct groups of people. The first group of people were severely and personally impacted by infant mortality. The second group of people were people that were indirectly impacted, but were still willing to put their best foot forward towards helping the cause. Seeing these 2 groups in unison Collectively working towards a mutual goal is one of the most beautiful things I think anyone can see. But at these events, there was also a third distinct group of people. This group of people were there just because. They were there perhaps because their children had forced them to, or dragged them along, or for other external reasons. But one thing was evident. They did not care about the cause, nor show any interest in wanting to learn about it. And I believe this is the principal problem. Many people don't understand the legitimacy that is infant mortality. To put it into perspective, 5.6 out of 1,000 infants are prone to infant mortality every single year. Let's look at a 1 mile radius. There are far more than 1,000 individuals, and every single one of us could not have been here today if we were prone to infant mortality. We would not have been able to have those special moments year after year, day after day, on our birthdays, and even ordinarily. These groups of people that openly display ignorance are the principal problem. No group of 10 of the strongest people, or 100, or 100,000 can ever hope to make any sort of impact or sustainable change on infant mortality alone. With all plagues, everyone must understand the legitimacy and realness of the issue. They must all put their best foot forward towards ensuring that no family has to endure this ever again. This tunnel seems very dark, but it does not have to be that way. Why should families have to worry about the mere survivability of their child? Why should innocent families tremble in fear at the very prospect of having a baby? Something that's supposed to be beautiful and worth anticipating. Why, on their children's birthdays, should families have to visit their children's cemeteries? The tunnel that is infant mortality seems infinitely dark and inescapable, but it does not have to be that way. With the support of all of us, everyone around us, only then can we hope to ensure that we preserve that beautiful moment that is a child's birthday.
Thank you for a heartwarming speech, Mario. Mayor Marathe, any questions?
Yeah, I've heard of March of Dimes. I've participated in many events. Do they work only in the US, and are there organizations similar in other countries? Because the problem is more acute in a lot of other poorer countries.
Yeah, I mean, March of Dimes was founded by the US President Franklin D. Roosevelt, but it is an international organization. We're the most acclaimed. It works all around the globe to ensure that no one has to go through that again.
Any audience questions?
You need to up your incentive, $10 is not enough.
Wait, sorry?
You know of any ways to prevent it?
There is lots of research being done to help prevent. I'm not a scientist. No one in my family is particularly adept to science, so I can't really explain the biological factors, but lots of research is being done on that end. And I am aware of some of the principal causes, that being obesity and alcohol and drug consumption. So those are ways to more so prevent it. I'm not particularly qualified to explain the biological aspect of it.
Thank you very much. You're doing very good.
School has just ended and we're all excited to put the books to rest for the summer. Yet, how much time do we take to value our education? Next up is Urja Saha, an incoming sophomore of J.P. Stevens High School, speaking about educational inequality.
counting to 10, your first science project, or the first successful program ran. In all these moments, you had someone behind you, someone to teach you, someone to guide you, someone to inspire, or should I say, inspire you to reach heights that you never thought you could climb. These are our mentors, and oftentimes in life, we take these people for granted. So now, take a minute and close your eyes so that you can imagine how life would have been different without these people. Would you achieve the same feats? In fact, would you even try, or would you give up before starting? Now open your eyes, not only physically, but to the reality that not everyone has these mentors. And this disparity is especially prevalent in the field of education. A couple of years ago, there was a study by UPenn and USC, and it found that, on average, students from the rich, elite private schools score nearly double on the SAT compared to their counterparts in the poorer schools. This is not saying that students from poor schools are dumb or that they don't care about school, but rather that these kids don't have the means to achieve academic success. Furthermore, there was another study just comparing schools that were on the poverty spectrum. Schools that were higher on the spectrum, meaning that they were more poor, spent on average 15.6% less per student compared to schools that were relatively lower on the spectrum. And this roots mainly from the fact that such schools have lower funding. Lower funding means less school supplies, less technology, and lower teacher qualifications. Adding on, Harvard economist Ferguson found a strong correlation between lower teacher qualification and lower test scores. Before I continue, I must point out that teacher qualification isn't merely measured by someone's knowledge on a subject, but rather everything that encompasses helping a student grow, mainly always being by a student's side at school. As aforementioned, these poorer schools have lower teacher qualifications, meaning that such students don't get much assistance. So clearly, their life in school isn't great. But what about outside of school? We must acknowledge that poverty in the status quo is a cycle. When someone is born poor, they don't have the means to achieve academic success and get a high-paying job to escape poverty. So this person is stuck poor. So are their children and their grandchildren. So for the students that are currently poor, everyone around them has suffered under the same exact curse, hindering their academic success. These students don't get help in school or outside of school. They have the worst of both worlds. As said by renowned politician and scientist Benjamin Franklin, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. But for any investment, you need capital and you need a banker. For knowledge, your capital would be all the resources and opportunities that you have around you, such as a school that encourages learning, nice technology to research it, and a general positive learning environment. And your banker, that would be all your mentors, your school teachers, your parents, your neighbors, your friends. But students in poor regions have neither. How do they grow as a student? The answer is that it's nearly impossible for them to do so. All these thoughts started really sparking my mind after I read an autobiography by Malala Yousafzai. And I learned how under the Taliban rule, girls in Pakistan had a death sentence put upon their head just for wanting to learn their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s. But I also read about the girls who stood up for their rights to get educated. Girls such as Malala, who got nearly fatally shot in the head for refusing to get off the school bus. And all this made me realize how you and I are so lucky to get an amazing education at the tips of our our fingers. All this made me want to do something to help those who aren't as fortunate. After some research, I came across schoolhouse.world, an online nonprofit tutoring organization that provides free tutoring to students globally. And during the beginning of these sessions, I noticed that a lot of the kids had nearly no idea about the subject that they were venturing into. But I also saw that these students were eager to learn. They were actively participating and asking lots of questions. In fact, by the end of these sessions, I saw a stark difference. A lot of these students had an excellent new grasp of the subject that I taught them. These students had the eagerness to escape the clutches of poverty and venture into academic success. And the best part of this is that all of us can volunteer at schoolhouse.world. All you need to do is take a small, quick test, and then you're set to brighten the lives of these young, brilliant minds and help them get a fair right to education. I've seen the results. Many of the students told me that these sessions were extremely beneficial, and they hadn't gotten this sort of guidance before. I saw what was once their swamp of confusion became a new garden of knowledge. But like any garden, a garden of knowledge needs to be nourished in order to be flourished. The only way to nourish such a garden is with more knowledge. More knowledge means more mentoring and an active role from you and I. The time to act is not next year, it's not tomorrow, but it's today, in this moment. In the 21st century, STEM-related jobs are on the rise and educational requirements are accelerating. But unfortunately, in the status quo, we're not keeping up as fast as we should. So that means that you and I should take a stronger role. We should make sure that we put a little bit of effort to help brighten these young lives. Because a little bit of effort from us will grow exponentially for them. For them, for the poor student, it could define their whole future. What might seem dim right now might lead to an especially bright future for these young, deserving minds. At the end of the day, our goal is to create a racetrack of education. Just like any racetrack, there will be competition. There will be people who come first and those who follow behind. But the starting line will not be the thickness of one's wallet, but solely the gray matter inside a student's brain. Thank you.
Wonderful job, Bridget. Do we have any questions from the audience? No? Okay, then we can move on with our next speaker. Thank you. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you'll get. Except this time, next up you got Koshal Jha with his speech on stigmatized inequity.
Stigma. What is stigma? Stigma is defined as a mark of disgrace associated with a certain person, circumstance, or group. Stigma detrimentally affects the lives of billions on a day-to-day basis in unimaginable ways. Picture this. Because of something that is core to your identity, something that you value, such as someone that you admire, a circumstance that occurred in your life, or equality that is a part of your identity that you've embraced, is the sole reason that society shuns you from doing certain activities. You are unable to find employment to support your daily life. You are unable to kick back with a solid group of friends. And you are unable to live life to its fullest. This is an issue that affects the lives of millions. However, one commonly overlooked group are people with disabilities. I will never forget this day in my life. I sat down in 7th grade at the lunch table, and about 2 tables down, out of the corner of my eye, I see someone walk up to a group of friends and ask, "Hey, can I sit here?" And to my disgust, the response I heard, I will never forget. The group of kids turned to him, glanced down, and then back up to his eyes, and said, "No, you're weird." This kid was born with a physical disability and was at the time on crutches. This disgusting stigma affected such a young life and would carry through into his adulthood. Stigma not only affects the lives of young people, but it translates directly into adulthood. When you become an adult, it is important that you find employment in order to support your life. You need money in order to live. However, when we look at the employment rates of people with disabilities, in 2021, it was about 19%. In 2020, it was 18%. While it is going up, when we look at their counterparts, people without disabilities, we see a huge difference. People without disabilities went up by 2%, from 62% in 2020 to 64% in 2021. This is a drastic difference that is mainly caused by employers deeming people with disabilities unfit to work. On top of that, people without disabilities who are employed, 82% of them hold full-time jobs, while people with disabilities who are employed, only 62% of them hold full-time jobs. As an adult, without a job, many other horrific problems arise, such as poverty, depression, and homelessness. 40% of our homeless population consists of people with disabilities. This number is huge and is mainly caused, again, by employers deeming people with disabilities unfit to work due to lack of vocational skills. Now you may be wondering, how can we fix this? How can we affect stigma in such a way that employers start seeing the human for who they are? Many organizations have already taken steps to attempt to reduce stigma as well as train people with disabilities. When I was younger, I made a good friend of mine who to this day is still one of my best friends. He was diagnosed with autism when he was extremely young, and I never saw an issue with it, as we used to hang out all the time, and I thought he was cool. However, his parents saw a real issue in his social life, in his academic life, and other aspects of his livelihood. They saw this issue of stigma affect him, not only on a community level, not only on a state level, not only in America, but globally. And they decided it was time to step up and make a change. Thus, Unified Spectrum was born. Unified Spectrum is an organization that helps people with disabilities train their vocational skills. They would take in a trainee who would work with them for about 50 hours, improving their motor skills, problem solving, amongst other vocational abilities. At the end of this 50 hours, a life-changing choice is given to them. They can either go search for work, or up front, Unified Spectrum will offer them a part-time job. That is a type of solution that we need. Offering employment to those who really need it. This affects these lives for the better, allows them to live. And you may be wondering, what exactly can I do for this cause? You can make a change with a simple click of a button on your phone. You can make a change by donating to organizations that help out people with disabilities. You can make a change by volunteering at these organizations and directly helping out people with disabilities refine their skills. While you hang out with your friends and go on a walk, or pick up your favorite book for the 5th time, or work your daily job, people with disabilities are struggling to stand, struggling to read, and struggling to find equitable employment. Thank you.
Speech, Kaushal, thank you. Audience, any questions?
So we see that a lot of time, right? The kids are having a tough time, especially in school.
Yes.
So it's just not tough for the kid, even the other regular kids as well. So what do you think school really needs to do in such case?
Well, as we can see, a lot of schools already has counselors in order to address mental health problems within people without disabilities and people with disabilities. However, a big step can be taken in each and every school. When I was in middle school, I was part of a team, it was called the Stakeholders Club, where essentially we would discuss issues in the school climate is what they call it. And in doing so, we would spread awareness to other students in order to make this climate more approachable and more inclusive of everybody. So many schools can take this kind of initiative and kind of directly look at the problem by involving the students within it.
Any other audience questions? Okay, thank you, Kaushal. Many say computer science is a man's field, but she thinks not. Coming up next is Tiani Shah, a rising sophomore at J.P. Stevens High School with a passion for computer science, hoping to show the world that a world of women's capability in tech. Before Diani goes, I would like to now welcome
Humans are allergic to change. They love to say, we've always done it this way. I try to fight that. That's why I have a clock on my wall that runs counterclockwise. These are the powerful words said by Grace Hopper, a pioneer computer scientist, and this cannot be more true today. Us humans, we want evolution instantly, but we refuse to make the smaller changes leading up to it. One example can be taken from one of the fastest and biggest growing industries in the whole world, computer science. Us humans, we want to send robots off to Mars or make advanced AI algorithms, but we refuse to change the methods proven not to work time and time again. Diversity, or the lack of it therefore, is one of the biggest changes not made in centuries in the computer science field. As we become more sophisticated in this field, I refuse to continue the common pattern of females being underrepresented in the tech world. According to a website titled Computer Science, it showed men earn 82% of all bachelor's degrees in computer science. 82%. In 2020, only 19.2% of all board member positions in STEM-related companies were comprised of women, and barely 3% of CEO jobs were occupied by women. When looking at these alarming statistics a year ago, I was shocked. In my own technology class in middle school, there were only 11 girls out of the whole class of 30 pupils. This proved to be worse in my computer science class, with only 3 girls, including myself, out of 19 students. This discrimination can be seen everywhere, even in clothing stores, where the girls section is filled with logos of Barbies and nail polish and dancing, while the boys section is filled with computers, robots, and cars. It breaks my heart every time to see a little girl trying to get a NASA t-shirt, which is gray and only has a NASA logo on it. So essentially, anyone should be able to wear it. But her mother's saying, "Oh honey, it's for boys. Don't worry, I'll get you a Barbie one." You may be in awe right now. How rude of this mother to deny her child's wishes for a simple t-shirt. But think about it. Intentionally or unintentionally, have you never discriminated against your child's wants? This may be to not sign them up for a coding class or to force them into a certain career path in fear of going against the current stereotypes. But when given the chance to, women had a lot to bring to the table. It's a bit ironic saying that computer science is a man's field when it was actually Ada Lovelace who created the first computer and computer programming, and she was a woman. Taking a more modern approach, the wonderful woman who I mentioned before, Grace Hopper, was the first person to create the world's first compiler, making the English language translate into a language that computers can understand, making it possible for almost anyone to code. And yet we continue to undermine these great efforts by women. When given the chance to, women can be as good as, if not better, than men in the STEM field. For example, a study done by Harvard's Business Review shows that women are better in leadership skills than men, such as collaboration, teamwork, taking initiative, and goal setting. It also shows that women have a more keen eye for details and tend to be stricter on themselves, their work ethics, and their workload. While men tend to have overconfidence in themselves, women can find these little problems and bugs and prevent future consequences. But we continue to strip away these big opportunities for women. Feeling very passionately about this topic, I decided to research and volunteer at places to help this cause. Girls Who Code is a program dedicated to close the gender gap and to inspire the next generation of female engineers. Girls Who Code has seen a lack of females in classes such as AP Computer Science and in advanced math classes, and seen the amount of female engineers go from 37% to 22%. Observing the biggest drop-off for them was between ages 13 to 17, the exact ages they're targeting. This club was actually run in my previous middle school, where I went to volunteer. At the end of the year, there was a survey conducted to see how many girls would choose a computer science-related elective the following year in school. And the response was an overwhelming 80%. I've actually had girls come up to me showing their appreciation for the program as they were forced to go into some electives such as cooking or music or art-related electives other than computer science and technology, as apparently it's for boys. And this was the only time they got to explore in the field and to experiment with the different languages. That was the moment of realization that this program meant so much for the girls. But at that moment, I also realized this was only girls in John Adams. Only girls in John Adams Middle School had experienced this beautiful experience. What about the rest of the girls of Edison, Princeton, or all of New Jersey? This is where Code Hers comes in. Similar to Girls Who Code, Code Hers sees a lack of females in classes such as AP Computer Science or advanced math classes. And they're teaching the fundamentals of computer science to these girls to remove gender-based barriers in their journey to computer science. With many different classes and workshops, there were around 30 to 40 girls coming in each session with a new enthusiasm and different ideas that were worked upon. And this also worked. We still have returning members and new members, emails for future workshop dates, and more crazy and innovative ideas to bring to the table. It's crazy to see that there was such a big sisterhood formed between all these girls, all due to computer science. The reason why these organizations even worked in the first place is because they went out there and solved the problem directly. They're not just asking for donations or for volunteers. They're going out there and first-handly solving this problem by teaching girls computer science and inspiring them. So who here is ready to end the discrimination and help that girl get her NASA t-shirt? Because we, together, have to provide these resources to them from an early age. We, together, have to fight off this allergy. And we, together, have to make the clocks go counterclockwise.
Thanks. Thank you. Maybe doing your research, did you come across the name Erna Hoover?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, she was actually a personal friend of mine and my husband's. And if you look her up, she was one of the foremost, this goes back many years, one of the earliest computer technologists. She was at Bell Labs. She invented a lot of the computer telephone systems that, revolutionized this field. So she's an early example of somebody who was really top-notch in her field.
Thank you. Do we have any audience questions? Okay, great job, Diani. You did such a great job.
Take a deep breath in. Feel the air filling up your lungs and your chest slowly expanding. And now slowly let it out. How relaxing was that? Breathing is a technique that is used in meditation to help calm the mind. It's used to relieve stress and anxiety and reduce physical pain. But where is this air that we breathe coming from? Well, it's common knowledge. Trees make oxygen, humans breathe in oxygen. So essentially, the air that we're breathing is just air that the trees are creating. Trees not only help us breathe, but they are also habitat and a source of food for many creatures all across the planet, such as birds, beavers, squirrels, and a multitudinous amount of insects. Did you know that 25% of the global population solely rely on trees? Not only are trees important for survival amongst every organism on Earth, but they're also a beautiful part of nature. Say you're going on a Thanksgiving trip with your family. It's a 5-hour trip, and you plan on being on your phone the whole time, because what are you going to do? But by the time you reach your destination, you find yourself staring out the window the whole ride. Because to your left side, there's beautiful yellow-leaved trees with hints of red. And on the other side, you see beautiful orange trees with hints of green here and there. But now what if I told you, the next time you go on this Thanksgiving trip with your loving family, we only have, say, 10,000 trees left on Earth. Instead of looking at these beautiful pops of color on a background of bright blue, you see boring, congruent buildings stamped on a sky of dark, gloomy gas from factories. I see the confused faces all throughout this room. You're probably thinking, how could that possibly happen? We're not going to run out of trees. I see ones everywhere I look. This is the sad reality of today's society. Deforestation is the act of cutting down trees in a large area. It causes global warming, an increase of greenhouse gas emissions, soil erosions, and floods. It doesn't just negatively impact the environment, but it also impacts all the species around the world that thrive off of it, such as the birds and the koalas, and so many other animals. Not only this, but deforestation directly affects the health of humans. A study by National Geographic shows that deforestation introduces new deadly pathogens that can lead to deadly viruses and diseases, such as the Lyme virus, the Nipah virus, Lyme disease, and malaria. For every 1% of forest lost, there is a 10% increase in malaria. And according to a study in 2020 by Scientific Reports, if deforestation increases at this constant rate, the human race as itself will be abolished off of Earth in a mere 20 to 40 years. 20 to 40 years. That barely gives us enough time for 2 to 3 generations. And by then, there are going to be no more humans left on Earth, which would also lead to no other organisms that rely on trees left on Earth. We need to take a stand to fight against deforestation and reverse the things that we have done. Deforestation directly affects man, which is ironic, because all the causes of deforestation are man-made. Urbanization, illegal logging, the production of paper, mining, and so many more are all things that humans have done themselves. So what can we do to reverse these problems that we have created that are going to be detrimental to our human society? To start off, we can follow the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. You can recycle your items as well as buying recycled items. Recycled items that you buy can go from glasses and cardboards to clothes. A popular clothing brand known as Aeropostale sells clothes that are made out of recycled material. A graphic t-shirt that is being sold that is made out of these recycled materials is $6.99, while a similar graphic tee that is not made from these recycled materials is $9. By buying these items that are made from recycled materials, you're not only saving your money, but you are also saving the planet. On top of this, you can go paperless. My high school specifically has distributed iPads to every single student that attends that school. This not only reduced the amount of paper we use by millions, but it has also helped the students be more efficient and organized with their studying and learning. And most importantly, the most effective way to fight against deforestation is by planting trees. Every birthday you have, plant a tree. Lost a loved one? Plant a tree in their memory so that their life can thrive through that tree. Are you graduating your high school this year? Join your whole senior class and plant a tree in front of your school so that your memory will live on with that school for the rest of eternity. But when trying to be environmentally friendly, why is planting trees the least common decision people decide to do? This is because planting trees is a little bit more complicated. You have to use time and money to buy materials, learn how to use the materials, and you have to find spaces that you can actually plant trees. Lots of counties and cities have laws and rules that prohibit people from planting trees in specific areas. When you're trying to do something good for the world, you wouldn't want to get punished because of that. This is where the New Jersey Tree Foundation comes in. The New Jersey Tree Foundation is a nonprofit organization founded in 1948 that solely targets planting trees to fight against deforestation and holds many events all across New Jersey so that people can join them and volunteer to plant trees with them. They specifically target places across the state, such as Camden and Newark, which are more urban states and don't have the money or resources that other privileged states do. Now, if you're wondering, well, we still don't know how to use any of these materials. We don't know what we're doing. Don't worry about it. The New Jersey Tree Foundation provides you with everything you could possibly need, going from gloves and water to pickaxes and shovels. And if you don't know how to successfully plant a tree, they give you a 15-minute tutorial in the beginning of each event where they dig up a hole themselves. They plant a tree and they show you how to do it right. They provide you with everything that you could possibly need so that the only thing you need to bring is yourself and a positive attitude to help save the environment. A few weeks ago, I had joined the New Jersey Tree Foundation myself, and during this event, we had planted 10 trees in total. While I was planting these trees and meeting new people that had shared the same interests as me, I felt so happy, and the joy that I experienced is unimaginable. Knowing that I was helping the environment while also helping the people in that community breathe fresher air. Together, we can join as a community to save Earth and save all the species in general. Plant a tree and save the human race. Thank you.
Thank you, Stigma, for discussing that topic. Senator Greenstein, do you have any questions?
Not right now, thank you.
The audience, any questions? Thank you, Stigma. Next speaker. To achieve success,
what is the most important decision that you'll ever make in your life? Think about it. The most important decisions that we'll ever make aren't the most urgent and aren't the most life-threatening. They're long-term decisions that add up over time. It's things like buying a house, choosing a life partner, opening up your first bank account, all major decisions. But aside from these major decisions, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of smaller decisions that we make every single day of our lives. It's things as simple as, should I spend these last few bucks on a hot cup of steaming coffee in the morning? But how do we prepare for this process of decision making? To me, decision making is a little bit like running. And what do I mean by that? If you're running a marathon, you don't just go and run it on the first day. It's a process of refinement and practice that takes place over a course of weeks, if not months, of extensive training. And by that same token, decision-making is a process that starts from childhood, continues into adolescence, and all the way into adulthood. First, you make bad decisions, then you learn from your mistakes, and finally, you can learn how to make the best decisions for yourself. But moreover, decision-making is very valuable in our lives, but what it's especially valuable for is our financial lives. And that means the type of income we're making, the way we spend, the way we save, the way we invest, insure, and protect ourselves. And what if I told you that decision-making is at a loss in our world right now? The student debt crisis, the inability of millennials to even buy homes, the increasing gap between the rich and the poor, all indications that we do not live in a society that prioritizes decision-making. But more importantly, what does this mean for the next generation of soon-to-be adults? What does this mean for students who are going to be working their first job, opening up their first bank account, saving for college. How are they expected to take on these tasks when the adults around them seemingly aren't prepared? And how do we quantify this loss in decision-making? 1/3 of all American adults are financially illiterate, and globally, less than 30% of all adults are financially literate. This growing problem illustrates a clear divide in our society, where the most essential components of our lives are being untouched. Parents, don't you wish your child was more financially responsible? Don't you wish your child was more of an entrepreneur? Don't you wish your child knew how to budget? Well, it may seem that the answer lies within education, but the reality is schools aren't doing enough. Every year, when standardized testing rolls around, it's common to see math and science as staples, but something as significant as financial literacy seems to be left in the dust. And over time, this lack of financial education has a clear impact upon these students. These students are more predisposed to things such as debt, and that trap can, and that opportunity for them to pursue their course of education is left untouched. And with the lack of initiatives to address this issue, I decided to create a change. I decided to create YELP, Youth Education Leadership Program. And what YELP is a nonprofit organization that directly partners with schools in order to deliver an hour-long curriculum through virtual sessions to schools across the world. And as our pilot session, YELP decided to target a historically underrepresented population, students in India. And more particularly, we chose students that came from backgrounds in which they were working day and night to just put food on their family's table. They hadn't given a second thought to things such as what opportunities they were going to pursue in the future. And they definitely weren't thinking about what tools were going to help them succeed. So with our session, we exposed these students to a myriad of concepts, ranging from the stock market to cryptocurrency. And these students were able to pique their interest and choose what really interested them within these topics. And as the immediate impact from this program, we were able to see a great response. And we received feedback across several schools from hundreds of students in every single session. And the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Students were clamoring for a second session. They wanted follow-up sessions at their schools. And even the staff reached out to me, and they were able to say that they had learned at least one important concept from YELP's session. And with the success of YELP across overseas, we can hope to implement similar objectives within the US in order to address this problem at home. And more importantly, the success of YELP helped me see the interest of students, and it's something that I've never seen before. Students that were eager to learn. They were trying to get every opportunity to squeeze every single aspect that I was conveying to them. They wanted to learn more. They were asking questions that I had never heard before. They wanted to learn, what age can I invest in? How young do I have to be to invest? What apps do I have to download to learn? And through this experience, we were able to realize that the demand for education is something that YELP alone can't satisfy. There has to be more initiatives just like YELP in order to suit the growing demands of education in our world today. And as we've seen from the success of YELP, we can hope to implement similar initiatives within our communities and within the US. So as we've seen, the key to financial literacy is through education. And through empowering the next generation, in order to make the change that we so badly need within our world today. Financial literacy is the key. Thank you.
Great job, Renee. Senator Greenstein, do you have any questions?
I guess my question would be, why do you think of all the different types of literacy that people can have, why do you think financial literacy is particularly important?
Right, that's a great question. So financial literacy obviously prioritizes money as the end all. And in our society today, it's really disheartening that such a great population of adults just don't have the capacity to manage their own finances. They're relying on other people to manage things such as their bank account. And what financial literacy does is gives these adults and students the freedom to pursue what they want in life. And compared to other types of literacy, obviously reading literacy is very important, but financial literacy is a skill that you can take with you regardless of what you're going into. It's just a skill that you'll need when you grow up.
Thank you. Do we have any audience questions? No? Okay, we can move on to the next speaker.
How many people here have been to New York City? Isn't it just so beautiful? The lights, the tall buildings, the ads mesmerizing us. This may seem so nice and fun, but there's a problem, a social problem, which I've seen. I saw a sign that was held by a man who wore ripped clothes. And on that sign, it said, "Please help, I need a job so I can buy a house." These words affected me. They made me realize that I was jealous. I was jealous of my friend because he had a bigger house than me. I was jealous because he had extra room in his house. But this homeless man doesn't even have a place to call home. Well, this is called homelessness. Homelessness is a social problem where people lack stable housing. Homeless people have very little food, water, and money. They often have to sleep on the uncomfortable roads, praying that they don't get run over by a car. The average death of a homeless man is 46, and for women, it's 42. 46 and 42. That's around the same age as many parents here. Could you imagine someone your age is dying on the roads because of accidents or suicides? Suicides because they're killing themselves because they think that killing themselves is the best way to reduce all this pain and they have nothing to live for. And some of them are going to the extent of committing crimes. Committing crimes because they think that living in the prison is better than living on the streets. But you're telling your children that they've made bad decisions to end up on the streets? That's completely wrong because you never know why a person has to live on the streets. The major reason why a person has to live on the streets is house prices. The house prices in New Jersey and New York are very expensive. And a person who makes around $40,000 wouldn't even think about buying a house. So their first option is renting. Renting out a house in New Jersey is around $2,000. That's it. So once they move into a house like this, their first emotion isn't excitement, but it's stress. Stressed out if they can pay the rent on time. Stressed out if they can buy groceries. Stressed out if they can pay for bills or insurance. This all adds up, and now they're in a crisis. A close friend of mine, who both me and him go to track, once while returning from a track meet, he suddenly started going around and asking everybody for a ride. I was so confused because it was getting very late in the night. I asked him, why not ask your mom for a ride? Why can't she pick you up? He said, my mom is working at Starbucks and she won't be able to pick me up at this time. I also suggested maybe get an Uber or another transportation. He said something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. He said, we're barely getting past rent. How are we going to afford Ubers and other sorts of transportation? This made me realize that many people are going through this and no one's talking about it. And they end up becoming homeless. This additionally shows working but in poverty. You could have a job, but that doesn't mean you're earning enough money from that job, which then sums up on your bills and all the rents, and now you're homeless. Like he said, his mom works at Starbucks, let's say. She gets about $2,500 per month. And if you add all the rents, clothing, groceries, it all adds up, leading them to have to stress about paying rent on time. And if they don't, what are they gonna get? An eviction. An eviction is when the homeowners tell the tenants to leave the house. In the beginning, they get a few warnings, but after that, they get kicked out of the house. Suppose a 46-year-old man is coming back from his work, but he suddenly gets into an accident. And from that accident, his life drastically changes. He now is physically disabled, which then causes him to lose his job. From that, he can't pay for the rent, and now his only option is to live on the streets with a physical disability. Every 2 in 5 homeless people, there are physical disabilities. You never know when a physical disability occurs. And when this does occur, you lose a steady job. And how are you going to afford a place to call home? How are you going to afford groceries? And how are you going to afford clothes? And on top of that, medical bills you have to pay for? It all just adds up, leading you to live on the streets. I've heard that there's many communities out there that have homeless people where they have physical disabilities, and they're hiding from people, hiding from the cops. Why, you may ask? Because they're scared that they'll split them up from their families, scared that they will get sent to prison or get deported back to their country. And this is just so horrible and awful for them. During the COVID crisis, there's many cases where the government had told the homeless people to go into hotels to stop the spread of the virus. And this was an amazing thing because now they are in hotels, but that was a temporary thing because now many hotel owners were kicking these people out because now they're stopping money and they're stopping many other things for them, which is a problem. To help homeless people, I've chose Habitat for Humanity. Habitat for Humanity is a global organization that works with 50 states, all 50 states, and several countries. Their vision is to build a place with decent homes. And to help create this vision, they've done that by creating many homes and have helped reduce the mortgage. And there's many ways you can help too, by volunteering at organizations like this or donating to homeless shelters, because every donation counts. Because the homeless people won't have to worry about one night's food if you give them a bread piece or clothes or many other things that could provide them for a day or last them. So at the end of the day, everybody deserves a home to live in. And you, me, and everyone in this room is so lucky to have 4 walls and a room protecting us at all times, but these people don't. So I think we need to give them that. If we don't, we will see that same sign that I saw, and that sign will forever haunt us.
Thank you for the informative speech, Pratik. You know, with zoning and redlining issues, especially prevalent in our county, I
I think it's very, very important to know about these topics. Senator Greenstein, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. As you expressed, I actually think homelessness is a very complex issue. There's no simple cause for it. One of the areas that you didn't mention was mental illness. Do you have any sense of what, and this, you may have read this somewhere, I don't know, but what percent of the people who are homeless actually suffer from mental illness?
I believe that, I think that's majority of many homeless people go through mental illnesses, because I feel like they develop some kind of like illness because they think that they are like alone and they have nothing to live for, so they have that illness, or they could have a mental illness before. So I feel like homelessness causes mental illnesses, and I think that's a great majority of homeless people have mental illnesses, and that's what I've read.
One of the decisions that was made in the 1990s was to shut down many of the psychiatric hospitals rather than make them better, which I worked in that field, and I thought that we should make them better, but instead we just shut them down, and then people were out on the streets. And you know, in the western states where the weather is warmer, they are out in the streets, you know, many of them, much larger numbers than we see here in the East. So it's really a problem, and the states will be looking at it and dealing with it. There's no question, though, that we have to come up with a lot more affordable housing, as you discussed, and I think that's a major issue. You know, they're always saying there's not enough money, but there has to be enough, and we have to make sure that happens.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Because there's no end to this problem unless like everybody pitches in, and it's a very complex problem. So I think everybody should pitch in and help bring a hope to everybody.
Absolutely, thank you.
It's called Habitat for Humanity. It's like they build houses for people who don't have homes. And they also, since they're building the houses, the mortgage would be less, so which is even better for them. So it's a win-win for everybody, I guess. So.
Any more? Any more audience questions? All right, I guess we move on to the next speaker.
The perfect son, a loving fiance, a stellar student. As a student in his college, he majored in economics, and later on earned a dean's list status. And eventually he became a financial advisor in a reputable company. However, one day he started experiencing back pain, which was agonizing at first, and he sought out doctors in order to see what was the problem, because he was surprised himself. However, doctors weren't able to do anything about it, because the truth, sadly, was that it was not able to be fixed. He later became depressed and looked for many sources of doctors in a wide range of places where he wanted to find solutions to his problem. He later stumbled upon a doctor who was willing to prescribe him opioids. As we all know, opioids is a very addictive substance, and he knew that as well. But he decided to give it a try, and took a few pills at a time. However, few pills turned to many. And as a result, he started to keep taking pills after pills every single day, until he later realized he was addicted to it. He went to a rehabilitation center, where he went 28 days straight without opioids. However, 28 days after going straight without opioids, he later relapsed and died. This was a story of Steve. And like Steve, he took the drug opioid. And that's not the only addictive drug that's prescribed out here. Drugs such as benzodiazepine to prescribe for nervous systems, opioids and narcotics for painkillers, and a wide array of drugs which are out in today's country. And while we notice that these drugs can have a harmful effect on our society, with science and technology, the doctors can prescribe these drugs because they have been through many breakthroughs in society in the past recent years, where they can cure many types of diseases. However, without the correct supervision, these drugs can become ill-fated to society and land up in the wrong hands. When we take these drugs, we notice a psychological effect, a cycle which goes through everyone when they take these drugs, prescription medication. First, they experience some kind of pain, for example, a car crash. Later, they get sorted to opioids. Few pills turn to many, and as a result, people relapse, overdose, or even death happens to them. While we all want to point to these drug takers who are addicted, and we can all just dismiss them as people who just don't have psychological, mental capability of not getting addicted to this. There's one factor which cannot be ignored, and that is big pharma. Pharmaceutical giants, like Purdue Pharmaceuticals, have managed to distribute oxycodone, an opioid, in the millions. And they've been prescribing this for a very long time, and this has gone unchecked. In order to distribute these drugs, they've gotten doctors, those who are pledged to helping society in times of need, and helping patients when they go to them. They decided to give them a lump sum amounts of opioids to take daily. And while these doctors are bribed with lavish amenities, and while they reap the benefits, the people they prescribe to are left to suffer. One doctor by the name of Barry Schultz, who is living a 100-year sentence in jail, prescribed over 800,000 pills of oxycodone a day, and gave one patient 60 pills a day, which is enough to make them relapse, overdose, or die. And as a result, Purdue Pharmaceuticals was able to make $4 billion, $4 billion, taking money from innocent people. And while we now listen to this and think, oh, this is a problem from Big Pharma, which is causing this. But no, because this is sadly not the case. Because 48 million people in the United States have taken drugs, 12 years old and above, have taken drugs without any need for them. That's 20% of the population. And it comes as no surprise that 43% of all hospital visits from drug abusers or drug-related problems have come from prescription abusers. These drugs have caused nefarious side effects to each individual people. And as a result, we want to see change now. This is where Prevention Coalition of Mercer County comes into play, with its wide array of solutions for the people that we love and cherish. They can help to stop this each week, month, year at a time. People across the world can go to these kind of counseling services and help themselves. When I went to volunteer, I witnessed the immediate impact of how their techniques affected them. One technique I witnessed was OR, open-endedness, affirmation, and reflection. When we ask open-ended questions to these various patients who come, we ask them, how did this happen? What did you feel? We have to give them open-ended questions, not simply yes or no, to give more thought-provoking answers from them. A for affirmations, to give little small pauses in their stories and tell them that we do care. Because we really do. We sympathize with them. And R for reflections. We reflect on what they said with inspirational stories of people who've witnessed the same thing, who have been through the same situations, if not slightly different, and how they've come out with the struggle they've put in. When I went there, we had a rate scale of 1 to 10 to show how ready were they to come out of this cycle of prescription abuse. 90% of these people rated 9 or 10 on the scale, showing that they were willing to create that step of change. And as a result, I've learned, as many as other people learn, and I've communicated with within that coalition, the best way to combat a psychological effect, like addiction, is a psychological cure, such as counseling. With the community backing people up, such as these prescription abusers, we can make a positive impact on every single one. Because as a community, we all learn to support each other. And that's the best way moving forward. We can also notice these signs as well before people we know and love start turning to the dark side of prescription abuse, the endless cycle of it. For example, consumption of alcohol, signs of wanting more drugs, withdrawal symptoms. These are all signs that we can notice before the change really occurs and before it's too late. Because in reality, we do not want any more Steves. How many more Steves do we have to witness in the news, social media, and in our communities? We want to stop this now. Because Steve has said in the past, opioids have helped them a lot, but they later turned to the news. We don't want to see any more Steves happen, and we want change now. And we can help change this through our various techniques and signs, and help everyone know that we do care. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
I do. I just, in case you didn't come across it in your research, we did quite a bit over the last couple of years in the legislature to deal with the problem. And you know, if you start at the very beginning, before people get addicted, we had bills to prevent doctors from giving out as many pills. So I think the doctors really are the starting place of all, because they were just going, as you said, completely overboard on pills. So I think that's working. I haven't heard a complete evaluation, but I think it has helped.
I mean, it's gotten better in the past, but like, it's still like
Last couple of years. You feel that counseling is once people are addicted, do you feel counseling is enough? Do they sometimes need substitute medicine?
Because medications, like while they work, they don't like work to the extent that like emotion. Because the thing is, addiction is a psychological thing. In order to do that, combat that, we need psychological effects on those kind of things, such as addiction. Because through like talking, we can like repair like how they mentally work, and we can like show that we really do care. Because a lot of people want to make those changes, but they aren't like getting the resources, or like even if they take a medication, they aren't like getting like used to like it doesn't work for everyone. So like through these kind of like counseling, we can help them in a way that we can show that we do care about them, and we can really make a positive impact on their life. Like, it doesn't take like one day, because one day of doing that doesn't work. It takes hard work on their end and our end as well to make a real change in their lives.
Thank you.
Do we have any audience questions? Okay, we can go to the next speaker.
Children who are the same age as the kids sitting here. Children who have the same potential as everybody here. Children who have a bright future ahead of them. 160 million kids are stuck inside of child labor right now, between the ages of 5 and 17. Yes, I did say 17. Some kids stay inside of this poverty cycle all the way till the age of 17. This is not good for them, as working 12 hours a day, these kids don't get a proper education at all, as they're constantly working through hazardous conditions and strenuous working conditions. Kids are easy to work with, as they're easy to harass and abuse, and this makes them an easy workforce and cheap labor. These kids don't get a proper education till such an old age, which makes their opportunities in the future not there anymore. And the future of these kids is no longer there, as they can't get the jobs that we as the normal general public, we go to school for 8 hours a day. But these kids don't even get that education, and by the time they do, they can't get a proper job and are stuck in these low jobs in these small working areas. And inside of these working conditions, they don't even get the proper food that they need. Not even a sufficient 3 meals a day, more or less one. With the wage that they get, they can't even get a meal on their plate. How does this make you feel, knowing that there are kids out there that don't have a good physical health or mental health? These working areas that they work at in the manufacturing industry and agricultural industry are detrimental to their health. And every day, these kids are suffering. Big companies that we see every single day when we shop at, such as Microsoft or Gap or H&M, Microsoft is a great company to get a computer at, or a phone at, or a device. H&M and Gap, great companies for buying clothes. But that computer that you got from Microsoft, did you know that the cobalt that was used to make it was mined by a 7-year-old? That H&M and Gap clothing that you bought was made by a kid. And the food that you put on your plate was also produced by a kid. We don't know about the horrifying things that are going on inside these companies, as they don't show it. They have such a good reputation. But in reports, it's not actually like this. H&M has been reported to have kids at any age come as long as they work for 12 hours a day. Inside of US's history as well, we can see that kids were quite popular inside of the working force and were easy to use because they only earn 50 to 60 cents a day for working 12 hours a day, not having a proper meal, nor being able to see their families. And inside of mining areas, the dust that comes off of certain minerals are quite hazardous for adults. What does that mean for a kid? They can get respiratory problems, diseases, and many problems that shouldn't be for a kid, and they shouldn't have to suffer. This is the same thing with companies today, and there are many laws that state child rights. Children should get an education after the age of 5. They're required to. But these kids are especially seen inside of Asia and sub-Saharan Africa. We might not see them in the United States or New Jersey, but they're out there, and there are so many kids. As I stated before, 160 million kids are out there who are stuck inside of these conditions because their parents can't support them, and they need help just to get a sufficient meal on their plate and the proper necessities in order to survive. This is also evident inside of the agricultural manufacturing industry, as said before, and we can make a change inside of the way that these companies act, and bring more awareness to this problem. Because child labor is such a big problem, and young kids who are the future of our country should not have to go through this. And we can help these kids and give them a future.
through World Vision, which helps 100 countries and 3.5 million kids. In 2015, when Congress proposed 100% cuts inside of child labor programs from 1995 inside of ILAB, which is International Labor Affairs, they had fought to give back the funding to these organizations, and today we have those organizations thriving and helping out to make a difference. And you can make a difference as well by sponsoring a kid or just giving a small donation, or even starting your own campaign with people that are around you in your own community. By reaching out to them, they can give you the supplies that you need to start your own campaign. And along with creating a campaign, you can also sponsor a child. And the people that have sponsored a child have said that kid that they sponsored has become almost like their family, as they help that kid every month to get an education, to get the food that they need, and the necessities that they need to have a bright future. You can give a bright future to a kid today.
Wonderful job, Shreya. Senator, any questions?
I don't actually have any, thanks.
Audience? Okay, I guess we can move on to the next speaker. Thank you, Shreya.
Strong and weak, rich and poor. These are all words we use to describe the world that we live in. In a boxing match, the stronger, more skilled opponent will win the match. Or in a racing event, the stronger, more powerful car will win the race. This also applies in the justice and court system. The wealthier, more powerful person in court will beat out the weaker and less wealthy person in court. You walk in a courtroom, and on the right, you see a man dressed in a suit with 5 lawyers around him and a huge stack of papers. And on the left, you see a man not so well dressed with only a measly 3 or 4 pieces of paper and a public defender. The man on the right is a well-known business tycoon who is very wealthy and known all around the country for his massive business. He is able to continue to focus on his business and expand his business while taking care of this court case because he has the power and money to hire so many people to do it for him. Whereas the man on the left is already struggling to make it by, and now he has these court charges, court fees, court fines, all to worry about and another headache in his daily life. Almost 20,000 people are falsely accused of crimes every year. 20,000. These people are normally poor and do not have the financial means to get a better lawyer for themselves and defend themselves in court. So where do they end up going? Prison. Now, in prison, are they rehabilitated there or not? They are not rehabilitated at all. In fact, they face the harshest, worst years of their life in prison. Prison is not a place to grow and learn. In fact, it is a place of torture and mental, physical, and emotional torture, like solitary confinement. Robert Hood, a former warden of the ADX prison, says the place isn't designed for humanity. What is it designed for then? Aren't humans the ones in the prisons? Aren't humans the ones in those jail cells? Aren't humans the ones being beat up and forced into solitary confinement with very little time outdoors? Why is it not designed for them? Are they being treated like animals or humans? How would you feel if you were treated like that? No matter what the human has done, they should be treated equally, but they are already facing these harsh, extreme conditions in prison. In California, another maximum security prison, guards have rival inmates put in a cage, or put in the prison courtyard, and have them fight to the death. To the death. And what happens if they do not fight? They are shot and killed. And this is current day America. This isn't ancient Rome or ancient Greece where we have these gladiator type battles. It's current day, and the modern era is now here. Well, what could we do to change these prisons? We could look at Norway, for example. Norway has one of the least crime rates in the world, and their prison is the complete opposite of the US system's prisons. It focuses more on the rehabilitation approach and to have the prisoners grow and learn from their mistakes, instead of beating down on them and punishing them for their crimes. While in prison, Norway prisoners can complete their doctorate, PhD, bachelor's, or master's, and they are also able to affiliate with other guards and prisoners alike. This is so when they are released from prison, they are welcomed into society and will become productive members of society and be able to restart their life fresh and new. Is this the case in America's prisons? No. In fact, in America's prisons, when you are released from prison, you now have a criminal mark on your history. What does this mean for your future? This means that it's going to be very hard to secure a job and near impossible to do so. And if you do, it won't be a job that can be very reliable and steady. It'll be hard to make it day by day in your daily life. In the US justice system, I am confident that if we use another way of taxes and fees, just like how we do taxes in the US, if we implement this system where the rich pay more for court charges, court fees, court fines, compared to the poor who pay less court fees, court fines, just like how taxes are paid in America. This will enable poorer people to get more lawyers and have more resources in order to prove their innocence. And what happens if they aren't able to prove their innocence? At least they won't be exposed to the worst prisons in the world. In fact, if we use Norway's systems, we can rehabilitate these prisoners and send them into society as working and good people instead of the criminals that they once were. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil, for for a speech on a very serious topic in our issue. Our country could really take a hint from the rest of the world on what to do with prisons. Senator, any questions?
Yeah, I do want to say a few things. In the legislature, I'm chair of what's called the Law and Public Safety Committee, so a lot of the prison issues come before us. In fact, in the last few years, we have done a lot when it comes to reducing recidivism, repeat offenders, and also making sure that people have re-entry plans. We're doing a lot with that. If any of you remember former Governor McGreevey back in the early 2000s, he's become one of the state's experts on re-entry, and he's running a lot of the programs now that that really improve the lots of people. I mean, for example, making it easier for them to get jobs, helping them to find housing. There are all kinds of programs to assist people when they leave now. So while many of the things you're describing probably do happen or have happened in some places, generally I think prisoners are having a little bit better over time than they did even just 10 years ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Audience have any questions, Nikhil? Okay, we can move on to our next speaker. Thank you, Nikhil.
Yay! You're probably wondering why I'm so happy right now. Yes, it's because I'm on Enfluence stage, but that's not the real case right here. It's because the Second Civil Rights Act has finally been passed in 1964. The act that supposedly prohibits discrimination against any person of color, race, or gender. It's been 60 years and society has not changed in the slightest bit. Racism is still a powerful leading thing in our society to this day. Still don't believe me? Why don't we take a trip to Texas? We've all heard of it, we've all talked about it, or seen a video posted viral online. If we take a look at Coppell Middle School, we can see an agent being harassed, assaulted, and choked because he refused to give a seat to a Caucasian. What did the principal have to say for this? He punished the Caucasian by suspending him for 1 day, but the innocent agent who had not done anything wrong was suspended for 3 whole days. It begs the question whether the higher authorities were fair in their decisions. We all love jogging after a whole stressful day at work or school, just to relieve ourselves, go outside and breathe fresh air, to take off the burden off our shoulders by a simple jog. After 30 to 45 minutes, we call it a day and go home safely. However, this is not the case for everyone. An African American who is jogging in his friendly neighborhood was jogging peacefully when he was stopped by a police officer and questioned to identify himself. The police officer then continued to put a shotgun in his chest and questioned whether he was a criminal or not. The police officer mistook him because of his race of being a criminal, because he was in a society filled with Caucasians. It again begs the question whether the higher authorities were fair in their decision. But how does racism affect each and every single person in our society? It's simple. It creates mental health issues for each and every person. It makes them feel uncalled stress. It makes them feel like a complete stranger, and it makes them feel like they have to live up to their racial status. It makes them feel like they have to become something they shouldn't be, they shouldn't have to. If you're an Asian, you have to get an A+. If you're a Hispanic, you have to do this. If you're an African American, you have to do this. Is what society has created each and every race to become. But what would happen if racism did not exist? Then people will start looking at others as human beings instead of their race. Race will not be the first thing that comes to someone's mind when talking to another person or hiring another person. It won't be a factor that society will ask when talking to another individual. But how do we create this utopian society? How do we make it a reality? Well, it's simple. We join nonprofits such as Color of Change. We simply use what God has given us. The answer is right in front of us. Our hands. Our hands have the power to sign petitions, to organize and rally, and to join the large protests that nonprofits such as Color of Change organize. You, me, we all can go on the streets, join multiple people, and as a society, we can change the racial practices that are existent in our society. Together, we can join these nonprofits and once and for all end the racial practices our society has placed on each and every person. Thank you.
speech, Trinity. This is such a relevant topic and something that we are still dealing with. Any questions?
I don't, thanks.
Okay, audience questions.
Please don't be shy. I'm not going to kill you or anything.
Okay, no questions. Then we can go to the next speaker.
A person will have passed away from hunger somewhere in the world in the next 5 minutes. A human life that even includes children. And children are the weakest amongst us humans, and they rely on their parents to provide them with all their basic necessities, when it comes from housing, to clothing, to food, to water, to everything. But what can the parents do when even they are in the same exact situations as their children? How can they be expected to provide for their children when they can't even provide for themselves? And this is going on all across the world, as their skin is stretching across their bones and they no longer have the will and energy to cry out for help. You may feel tremendous sorrow after hearing this, but they will fade from our minds the instant you start thinking about more pressing matters to yourself, like, what do I need to do once I get home? Or what chores do I need to do once I get home? This should not be the case. But what is causing world hunger? The number one reason that sticks out to us the most is poverty. Because of poverty, people are not able to go to the supermarkets and buy whatever food they would like to. And even in the worst case scenarios, they are not able to plant their own food and grow little food just for themselves. And what's even worse than this is that it is a cycle. If you're constantly hungry, then you're always suffering from a lack of motivation and energy. And because of this, it leads to a decreased output in the work field. This means continued poverty and continued hunger. The climate is also changing all across the world. And because of this, different types of natural disasters are occurring. Natural disasters like tornadoes and hurricanes that are ripping the crops right out of the ground. And in other places, the floods which are drowning the crops. And in countries that are closest to the equator, they are facing severe heat, where it's sucking out the moisture from the ground, leaving the crops to wither and die. When thinking about solutions to this major global problem, there's no one easy solution that sticks out to us, but there's a wide array of them that can come in the forms of working in a group, as in for a volunteering organization or a company, or we can even make a big impact individually. Global hunger can be cured by providing these poor farmers with the knowledge of pest control and invasive species, so that they will understand how they can fend off their crops from these creatures. We can also provide them with the necessary technology, like tractors, to make farming much more efficient. But why are these poor regions even having to resort to farming for a living? This is due to the lack of education. Because of the lack of education, many people are resorting to farming, which is very, very, very volatile. And this is occurring in many third world countries. For example, Brazil, Africa, and India, and many, many more. For example, Let's take Africa. 70% of Africa's total population depends on farming for a living. You heard me right, 70%. This means almost 3/4 of the complete population relies on farming for a living. If we can provide these poor people with the necessary education, they can get proper jobs and higher salaries so they can go to the supermarkets and buy their own food. And what comes with the lack of knowledge is also a lack of knowledge in nutrition. These poor people do not know what they're keeping into their bodies and what is good for them and what they need. They don't know what gives them the most energy. They don't know about macromolecules like proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. But not all solutions have to help worldwide. We can even make a big impact locally, like I do through my volunteering organization called SEBA. Through SEBA, we are provided a list of ingredients, and with those ingredients, we make homemade food like Mexican rice, beans, brownies, and salads, and many more. We pack them and then we ship them off to places that need it the most. For example, Trenton. Trenton has a high poverty rate, and they need our food to live because they cannot provide for themselves. I remember one time going to a church there, a local church, to pass around the food. I stood behind a table with a bunch of boxes of food that I prepared, as there was a huge line that gathered behind it. And the one thing I take away from that day is the faces, the smiles on the children as they happily and eagerly took the food from my hands. So the next time you have food on your plate, think about the people that do not and be grateful for what you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Aniket, for your wonderful speech on world hunger. Do we have any questions? No? Any audience questions? This is your last chance to ask questions today. Okay, Aniket, thank you so much.
Congratulations to you. Congratulations. Great job. Thank you.
Srinath Chade.
Oh, congratulations. Great job. There's a picture over there. I guess there.
Amartya Dharma.
Kaushal.
Nikhil Kanaganti.
Sunandika Krishndas.
Pratik Pasumarthy.
Hriday Pasupuleti.
Sahana Pillai.
Urja Saha.
Yani Shah.
Devan Shah.
Shreya Tamana.
Candidate Tamara.
Right, yes, I do.
Sanji Bir Panegi.
Senator, would you like to say a few words?
I want to start. Can share the moment. So we'll start off with that. Sriram is a certified Inspire Academy trainer. He has been with me for the past 10 years or so. I don't know, probably 10 years. Okay, then he's at Rutgers and he's in the business analytics program. So he helps a lot of students and he's been the certified Inspire Academy trainer for the past 3 years. And we have Sana Sateh, and she's a senior in Inspire Academy. Her textile talk is coming up very soon. It's on August 13th, so look out for that. Yep, they're all training for that. And we have Arnav Rastogi, again, the senior Inspire Academy intern, who has been helping me for quite some time, almost 6 to 7 years in here. And we have Keshav, again, another senior Inspire Academy intern. You will be listening to Sana, Arnav,
and Keshav on their textile talk that will be coming up on August 13th, so tune in for that. And again, we have Nidhi, who has been with me for the past 3 to 4 years, and she's intern as well. And we have Sanjana, the pillar of support for Enfluence. I just want them to bring on stage. And we have Rishabh. He has been interning for the past 2 years, and we have Pranav again. So it's a big team. Hope I did not miss anyone here. Okay, if I'm there's a bigger crowd behind this, but today only these people are here. So great job. Thank you very, very much for making this whole moment training. They have been with me till 9 p.m. last night, helping out. So it's a great team. I'm very proud of my team, and we all rock. And they all joined the band now. All the remaining 16 speakers will be interning at Inspire Academy from now on. So welcome to the club.
Sure. And you should be in it too. Yeah. Well, I wasn't very good at this.
Why don't you come? What time?
Yeah. Sure. You're going to do the picture.
Yeah. Just a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you able to cover?
Can you all squeeze in? Okay. Ah. All right, guys, ready? One more. Okay. Do you want to take with your camera?
You want to do this? Yeah, sure. Students, can all of you come here?
Sure, you want to?
Yeah, we want to take another picture.
Thank you.
No problem.
She's in a hurry.
Vivan, you go back so that the short ones can.
You can go this way.
If you can take out your mask for a minute.
Everybody is coming.
Okay. Over here. More. One more. Okay.
All the students, stay back.
GX.
Whatever
Good day. You're not. Get on.
Come, all of you come. I'm sorry.
That's why you have to say.
Vivaan, come. All of you can imagine. Okay, now what we do, all of you need to hold the knife. Everyone, no, just everybody. Just everybody needs to hold the knife. Yeah, go ahead. Everybody needs to hold the knife. You can have to go. Everybody, I need to cut. Don't go. I don't see. I see Kaushik holding the knife. Okay.
Hey, what are you saying?
This is just for us.
Yeah, what are you saying?
Yeah, sure. That is good.
The revelation.
So everybody is getting it. Okay, thank you. So that's what you're going to do. Pardon me? Yeah, sure. You want to take a picture of this? A go to B, B go to C, A go to C. Yeah. Geometric sequence. Back to A.